Please don't forget to record.
I started.
But maybe later. And mendoj se duhet fillojmë. Toni, duhet fillojmë. Toni, duhet fillojmë. Më dëgjon? Bëj unmute edhe të fillojmë. Bëj unmute.
Dëgjojmë tani?
Një moment për sinjalin tim.
Nevila të filloj.
Do presësh Sediolën, masi t'jap sinjalin Sediola, sepse fillon recording dhe është live në Facebook dhe pastaj do fillosh ti. Dakor?
Okej. Filloj në anglisht direkt, ha? Whatever, filloj në anglisht.
Moza, të lutem bëre unmute.
Welcome everybody in the next webinar of Mediterranean University of Albania. Topic for today is debating Europe.
Mund të fillojmë, Sediola? Filloj. Të filloj pra?
Po.
Hello to everyone. I would like to welcome everybody to the online conference Debating Europe. Due to the COVID pandemic, this conference is organized online within the framework of the project Young Towards Europe and in collaboration with the project Laboratory of Debate on European Integration in University Auditoriums. My name is Kriton Kuqi. I'm the project manager and the lecturer at the European University at the Mediterranean University of Albania. Our project is a project founded by the IPA European Union Integration Facility 2014 and is implemented by the Mezeu Center, the Mediterranean University of Albania, in partnership with the Bulgarian School of Politics, Dimitri Panidza, and EBA Institute in Albania during December 2018 and June 2020. The overall goal of our project was to raise public awareness and disseminate information about the EU accession and integration process, EU values and key institutions among young people on the Republic of Albania by providing a forum for information, generation and sharing, reaching out to thousands of citizens and youth in particular in 9 cities across the country, in Tirana, Durrës, Elbasan, Shkodra, Peshkë, Croatia, and so on. So in the wake of the Zagreb summit, the supporters of the EU enlargement, whether in Western Balkans or within the Union itself, had the reason to cherish. The European perspective of the non-EU 6 countries in the Southeast Europe was confirmed again by EU leaders. The most important recent development concerning the European perspective was, however, a March decision by the European Council to start accession negotiations with Albania and the Republic of North Macedonia. The positive Council decision earlier this spring didn't make headlines as Europe and the world was struggling with the coronavirus pandemic. A look at Albania and North Macedonia would reveal that the problems lie not within turning away from the European dream or an EU enclave falling prey to non-Euro-Atlantic powerful players. The problems are rather homegrown and concern first and foremost
Clinton, you have problem with voice.
Tani dëgjove? Duhet ta filloj nga e para?
Yes.
Nga fillimi fare?
No.
Nuk jam.
Në momentin që ndërpreve, Clinton.
Okay. Set in this background, this online conference has brought together academics, experts, students, young professionals, politicians, members of the parliament from Albania and Bulgaria to discuss on the European integration perspective of Albania, but also of the whole region, on the European enlargement challenges. So I would like to now to pass the floor to our first keynote speaker, Mrs. Evgenia Angelova, member of the Bulgarian Parliament. Mrs. Angelova.
Hello.
Hello.
I hope you can hear me. I think the first topic that you have, according to the program, is how to revive the political will necessary to make enlargement a success in the Western Balkans and the European Union. The topic that I will speak on today is the topic about the youth policy and the engagement in Bulgaria. So I think my colleague, Mr. Lambev, will take on to start on the first topic. Excuse me, did you, I can't hear anything. Did you hear what I said just a bit before?
I think we have a technical problem. We have to, Sediola.
Yes.
We can't hear Mrs. Angelova. I think we have a problem here.
Oh, okay. Is it possible to hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I see the program. Hello, everybody. First of all, I see the program here that was sent to all of us, and in the program, I see that the first topic that we have on the schedule is the topic of how to revive the political will necessary to make enlargement a success in the Western Balkans and the European Union. However, the topic I will speak on is youth policy. Mr. Lambev is a panelist who is picking on the first topic. You might want to check this. Do you not hear me again?
Now we can hear you again,
Okay,
yes.
You can hear again now?
Now,
okay.
yes.
The topic I will speak on is youth policy. According to the program that was that we'll speak on. So I am prepared to start now and speak on youth policies if you'd like to. I don't know if this is the order of the program that we're going by.
Yes, this is the program. Yes, about the youth policy and engagement in Bulgaria. Yes.
Okay, no problem then. Youth policies and engagement in Bulgaria. This is actually a very, very interesting topic. And from what I see, I'm very glad that we have all the technologies and communications to be able to use nowadays with the coronavirus pandemic. We can still be together. But what I see is I see a lot of young people because for those who have their camera on, and this is something very, very good. Young people are the base of everything because I know it's a cliche, but young people are actually the future, and young people will be the people who will be our leaders in the coming days. So I want to tell you a little bit about the youth policy and how youth policy is it's featured in different strategic documents. We have a government program. The government program from 2017 to 2021 is a program made by the leading majority of the Bulgarian parliament. One of its main priorities in this governing program is related to the youth, and it's providing a supportive and encouraging environment for the social, professional, and personal realization of young people in the country. So the leading majority right now speaks enough that we actually really pay attention to this topic, to the developing of the youth. The main responsible institution for the implementation and development of youth policies in Bulgaria is the Ministry of Youth and Sport. Is there a national youth law? Yes, there is a national youth law. In Bulgaria, we have laws that are in the competencies of different ministries. One of the laws that is under the responsibility of the Ministry of Youth and Sport is the National Youth Act. The National Youth Act, defines young people as people who are aged 15 to 29 years old. This is according to the international and European standards for youth work. This is the corresponding age limit that affects all youth policies that we're going to be talking about, or that I am going to be talking about today. The Youth Act defines the basic principles, management, and financing of the activities carried out in pursuance of the state policy on youth. It contains topics such as youth organizations, youth volunteering, youth policies and information. And it's important to say here that the Youth Act, which is relevant now, was lastly adopted in 2013. So that is 7 years ago. In addition to the Youth Act, there is also the National Youth Strategy. The target group of this strategy, again, is the population between 15 to 29, like I said before, but here with no specific group within the youth population. The Designed and Active Youth Strategy was developed in 2010, so that's 10 years ago. of course, with the consultation of young people and their representatives by the public authorities. The top level authority responsible for the implementation, coordination, and monitoring of the National Youth Strategy. Of course, here is also the Ministry of Youth and Sports. So this is the body in the government in the country that is responsible for most of the youth matters in the country. The National Youth Strategy, it sets out long-term goals and priorities of the government's youth policy of the Republic of Bulgaria for a period of 10 years. The strategy that is active right now, it's for the period from 2010 to 2020, so until this year. It outlines the situation for young people in Bulgaria and details strategic aims, including some priorities that are in focus, and I will just mention a few of them. It's economic activity and career development, improving the access to information, something that's very important, and quality of services. Promoting healthy lifestyle, social exclusion, volunteering, participation, intercultural dialogue, crime prevention, and so forth. As I just said a minute ago, the acting National Youth Strategy expires in 2020, expires this year. It was made for 10 years. The consultations for the new National Youth Strategy that starts from 2021, they already began last year. As the end of last year, the management of the Ministry of Youth and Sports started holding meetings with young people and non-governmental organizations in various cities, regions of the country. These meetings were aimed at discussing challenges as identified by the young people themselves. So we have here the connection between the young people and the ministry, the body that is responsible for that strategy, or to write that strategy. The Ministry of Youth and Sports, they actually plan to have a closing conference to be held in Sofia, in our capital city, when the first official draft is already finished, so it can be presented and so discussion can be made again with young people who are interested. Again, a key working method in the ministry is to involve young people and their representatives in the process of youth policy development and, of course, implementation. Besides the National Youth Strategy, there is a National Youth Advisory Council. It's a formalized role of coordinating the development of the National Youth Strategy and of ensuring a cross-sectoral approach to youth policy. There's no national agency for the youth, but the Ministry of Youth and Sports has a whole department dedicated to youth policies. The Youth Policies Directorate within the Ministry of Youth and Sports is responsible for the implementation of the national youth policy, of course, not only the policy, but all the programs that are run. On the regional level, municipal councils and mayors of municipalities cooperate with the local structures of central government authorities according to the youth law. Like I said before, there's a youth law passed in 2013. There's no specific legal framework, such as the working group, for example, on this matter. There are some understructures also that deal with youth matters. A public council on youth matters. The public council on youth matters is started operation 3 years ago in 2017. It's headed by the deputy minister who is responsible for youth matters. It unites all kinds of organizations registered under the Nonprofit Legal Entities Act for the purpose of carrying out activities in the public interest and aiming at the implementation of youth activities. Last year, in 2019, 12 new organizations were added to the public council. It used to have 27 members, now we have 12 more, so more and more opinions can be heard. There's also a committee on children, youth and sport matters in the National Parliament. This committee in the National Parliament consists of 19 members of Parliament. It's responsible for the matters related to youth, children and sports in the Bulgarian Parliament. The committee is responsible for the draft laws that the Parliament is considering in the whole sector of youth. It discusses, debates, and gives an opinion on youth issues in the Parliament. The committee also communicates with and cooperates with other parliamentary committees when deciding on draft laws and other documents within the competence of the National Assembly again, in the field of youth. Something else that is very important that has been done is a National Youth Information System. The National Youth Information System is made because of the Youth Act obliges the Ministry of Youth and Sports to set up and maintain such a system to provide up-to-date information on the needs of the young, all youth policies at national, regional, and municipal level. The National Youth Information System contains a full register of youth organizations and organizations working for the benefit of the young people. It has up-to-date information on young people, documents related to the implementation of policies, and other useful documentation. Now, last but not least, it's important to say that youth policies in Bulgaria are financed by the state budget and also by European funds. The Youth Policies Directorate within the Ministry of Youth and Sport, it organizes, coordinates, controls, implements, manages all the tools to finance youth activities from the state budget to the budget of the Ministry of Youth and Sport, and also the funds from the European and international financial sources. Just very quick, regarding European funds that we receive in regards to youth policies, the main, of course, is program Erasmus. For 20 years, the Human Resource Development Center managing European educational programs. Another European Union fund used for youth policy is the operational program Human Resources Development. It is managed by a different ministry, but even though it's still used in some parts for the youth policies. In conclusion, I would like to say a few words about the cooperation between, on this topic, on the topic of youth, between Bulgaria and all the other European countries. During the Bulgarian presidency of the Council of the European Union, that happened in the first half of 2018, Bulgaria set the future of Europe and the young people. This was 10 meetings of the youth working group of the Council of the European Union. We had those meetings. In those meetings were discussed and formed a few conclusions. One of these conclusions, in short, is on the role of young people in building harmonious, united, and peaceful society in Europe. The other conclusion that was drawn is focused on the role of the youth in overcoming the demographic challenges in the European Union. During the time of the presidency, there was a European Youth Conference with 250 participants from the European Union, not only the European Union, the Western Balkans and the Eastern Partnership. It was organized within the framework of the presidency. The event produced the first European youth goals. This is something this is a milestone. Those European youth goals were presented to the European Commission as a direct recommendation for the next program period of the European Youth Strategy. Maybe here's the time to mention that Bulgaria, of course, has good long-standing practices in working with the United Nations in the field of youth development. And I think I've been speaking too long, but in conclusion, I would like to say that youth policy cannot make progress without the successful cooperation within all sectors on local, national, international level. In turn, youth policies can contribute to delivering results in areas such as education, employment, overcoming social exclusion, providing equal opportunities for professional and personal fulfillment, and of course, enhancing the health status of the population. This is why it's a very important topic, and it's crucial to make sure we all work very, very hard. And
I think we have a connection problem. Sediola. I think we have a connection problem with the internet. I can't. Okay, I would like to thank Mrs. Angelova for her very interesting remarks. And I would like to pass the floor to our next keynote speaker, Mrs. Sediola Messi, Deputy Head of the European Integration Committee from the Albanian Parliament. Mrs. Messi, the floor is yours. Zonja Messi është online?
You please the mic.
Hello, I think now I'm, yes, you listen to me, yes?
Yes, yes, of course.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
So thank you very much inviting us as member of Albanian Parliament, but in the same time dealing with European integration process from the view of the, let's say, Albanian Parliament. Thank you to the Mediterranean University and the Center of Science and Innovation for Development for bringing together such an interesting event to talk all together about European integration. I'd like just, let's say, to brief a little bit where is the situation now, and to give maybe later the floor to the student to make much more, let's say, concrete and deep questions in order to understand maybe more the process, but even whenever that they have a real, let's say, a question to understand more, and not to be, let's say, discussed a lot in the process. I was coming directly, so from one meeting to one meeting, from the National Committee on Integration, which has part not only a member of Albanian Parliament, but even actually was really participation from the executive, was participating the Prime Minister, from the President, the Presidents, the Head of Parliament, or the Speaker of the Parliament, said diversely. So in this sense, and in this, let's say, national committee, it's not only the one that make the politics and the one that make the decision, but it's composed with members from media, members from academia, and members from the civil society. And I do believe that this process is very much important, that we include as much as actors when we are talking about European integration, Albanian, and not only, but all as Western Balkans, because we are one region, and somehow it has a direct connection how much we are integrated regionally, and all together help each other to be integrated even in the European Union. Youngsters, despite the national politics, they have or they should act and cooperate even regionally. You know that there is a RICO, which is kind of institution which is monitored and helped and supported by European integration in order to connect somehow youngsters in all the region of Western Balkan, exactly to talk and to support the reforms which are needed in order for Albanian, but for all Western Balkan countries to be integrated in the European Union. Our region, Albania, of course, has full support from EU countries in all the reforms. We are talking now about, let's say, the chief of the reform, which is justice reform. And from the side of the parliament, we have accomplished all our duties. Now is the duty of all the institutions, which are now by law and by constitution, independent from the executive and independent from the parliament, in order to fulfill all their vacancies. From the part of the parliament, we already approved the budget for 2020, so they have all the monetary, let's say, assets to really implement what they need to do. From the parliament, we approved the members stated by the constitution from the for the High Court, and in this perspective, we need, as Parliament, to really push, monitor, and observe the process in order that the justice reform could be finished. Definitely, there are 5 key priorities for Albania that the EU countries and Commission evaluate us year after year. And according to this evaluation, there should be progress, and used to be progress since the beginning till now. That's why in this spring, the accession negotiation talks were open with North Macedonia and Albania. And yes, Mr. Kucha, I agree with you, due to the pandemic situation, due to even the Albanian situation of post-earthquake, somehow it was not a big, let's say, attention, even though we have been waiting for a long time to open the accession talks with European Union. And this evaluation, let's put it like this, even with a new methodology, is becoming very much important. The new methodology, how the European countries evaluate the candidate countries, it's purely based on the progress that these countries are doing to the priorities. For Albania, 5 key priorities are justice reform, the fight against corruption and organized crime, the public administration reform, human rights, which, let's say, are the most important component of the priorities that EU is evaluating us. What is important with the new methodology is that it is really stipulated that if you don't have progress, it's automatically a regress. And if it's a regress, then somehow we are in a situation which is making much more difficult Albania and all the other countries which are in this process to really go through the integration process. That's why it's very much important that we go on with the reforms, but deepen in them, and prove concrete results that this reform, at the end of the day, are not only good because of the European Union, but are good for Albanian citizens. Only the, let's put it like this, the human dimension, if I can put it this, an economical dimension of European integration is somehow let aside. But recently we are talking a lot more, what does it mean for Albanian citizens, for the businesses, for youngsters, for universities, the integration process. And everybody should be aware, what does this mean? Yes, of course, there are reforms, but there are much more higher standards that we put to ourselves to be as one of European countries. It means higher standards for you as a university, higher standards for businesses, that tomorrow they will be in the same, let's say, platforms to compete with other businesses in the same, let's say, table of European countries' businesses. And what does it mean for the government? It means much more accountable, open, transparent, and good governance. So it means much more, let's say, duties and much more responsibility, even for the government, to not simply to lead and take decisions by rule, by law, but to be a government, but even a parliament, which is much more, let's say, open, much more accountable, and to discuss and to take decision all together. I cannot see the integration process as a process which only the government is doing as the executive. Yes, the executive has the most, let's say, important task in this. But there is a parliament. There are a lot of independent institutions which, let's say, act, and a lot of NGOs, civil society, and even in the parliament, but even in the, let's say, integration process, there is a huge and important component of civil society. And the voice of the civil society and their suggestion, plus academia and plus businesses, should be heard in order to move forward. There is another component that I wanted to discuss with you about regional context and about regional cooperation, again, in the process of European integration and so-called Berlin process, which is not only the cooperation with RICO, with youngsters, but even regional economical area, which somehow is pushing our country to collaborate together and to have kind of same routes, less procedures, in order for the capital, people, services to travel much more, let's say, easily, and to be much more attractive from the foreign direct investors to see the region as one market. If you see the Albania with 2.8 million of inhabitants as a potential market, it's very much, let's say, a small market for a big investor from, I don't know, France or Germany or overseas. But if you see as a region entire, so 6 Western Balkan countries and beyond, then yes, of course, you see much more, let's say, a potential. But what the 6 Western Balkan countries should do is that they should ease the procedures of communication between borders. If it's possible, no border, let's say, at all, and less procedure and recognition of all the papers and documents to be, let's say, in support of these businesses to travel easily around the region. One good initiative was started in 2018 and was 17, pardon, and was, let's say, concluded last year, the connectivity issue. Still, when we are traveling, we are paying a lot of roaming. One of the objectives in this regional cooperation is to have zero tariffs in roaming, at least talking about us within the same region. Was hard because Kosovo is one of the issues, and always the Serbia and Kosovo, let's say, disputes always bring, let's say, some trouble. Meanwhile, we are discussing as one region in comparison with all the countries in Western Balkan countries, but was an agreement which at the end of the day was agreed, despite the fact that there is a standing agreement between Albania and Kosovo. Any of the Western Balkan countries, which is feasible and for them, then they can easily apply because their diploma should be recognized automatically. Or if our youngsters, but other, let's say, unemployed people or employed here, but could find a better job in the region with the documents that they are having in Albania, could be easier for them just to apply for a job. So in this context is this human and social dimension of European integration, despite the fact that in the media and always we as a politician talk a lot about the procedure, talk about a lot of laws, talk about a lot of let's say, how we are fighting this and how we are fighting that. What is always important is to see, are we prepared as a society to be in the same status or to become tomorrow as members, equal members of European Union. Maybe my colleague will talk a little bit more in regarding, for example, gender equality, and there is kind of a very detailed paragraphs in the old estimation of the progress report that EU is doing for Albania in order to push us in the even in the regional context and having much more, let's say, attention toward gender. Another, let's say, element I wanted to share with you is the Agenda 2030 of United Nations. It talks about the sustainable development. And in our national strategy for development and integration, which in my opinion is the mother of the strategies, because it's a strategy who, let's say, includes all the important components of where Albania should be in a let's say, 4 coming years or 5 coming years. And it's talked about the general development, but has a parallel, let's say, drawing, and it's talking about even European integration. And in our national strategy, we didn't, let's say, make aside the integration strategy, but for Albanian people, for Albanian government, the national agenda, one of the main important things in the national agenda, it's even the integration agenda. And here you as a university and students could be much more, let's say, interactive. It's the year where Albanian government is working toward, let's say, drafting the new strategy, because the existing one is finishing this year. So the Albanian government it's working on producing a new strategy for development and integration. And I would like more to see hints and ideas and comments and suggestions, so to be much more an open and transparent progress, that you have your kind of chapter, if I can call it so, or input in the Albanian national and integration strategy. not only we can work together, not only in policy making, but and in national strategies, but even we can work together in environmental issues. But I know that it's one topic that especially youngsters, and start not only you as students in the university, but I see an awareness raising day after day, even in the elementary schools and in the high schools, which I really appreciate, that we can do and what we can do more to protect our environment, and at the same time create out of this sustainable development for our economy and society. Innovation is another thing. I don't know how much you students are really involved in this. You has included Albania in all the digital and innovation, let's say, strategy. There are a lot of calls and grants which somehow any of you or a group of you or even individual can apply in order to boost entrepreneurship. I'm coming from business, and let's say my all my core experience is coming working with businesses, and definitely the government, not only the government of Albania, but none of the government in the world are the biggest employers. So pushing a lot toward digitalization, innovation, and entrepreneurship, I do believe that you guys tomorrow are the one having a future business tomorrow, but in the same time being even the leaders of tomorrow. So that's why working together and developing the strategies and policies, it can help you with more know-how of the process, but it can help us as a politician and decision maker to make the right decision in the right moment. Together, I do believe that we can make the democracy much more nicer and improve and foster the integration process.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Messi. I would like to kindly remind all our speakers to keep their presentations up to 10 minutes, let's say. And I would like now to handle the moderation to my colleague, Bleriana Vino.
Thank you, Kriton. So without further ado, I would like to invite our next keynote speaker, Mrs. Eglantina Germani, member of the Albanian Parliament, and also one of the important voices on gender social inclusion in the country. Mrs. Germani, the floor is yours. Thank you. Please, if you can unmute the microphone. I would please ask everybody else who is not speaking to mute their microphone, and only Mrs. Germani to unmute her microphone. Thank you. No, you have to do it once more. Just click once, Mrs. Germani. No, we cannot hear you yet. Just please once more.
Yes.
Yes, now we can hear you. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much for inviting me. I will try to be brief. Several years ago, when I was part of the civil society, we did a regional project, and the title was Bringing EU Home. I do remember that all our countries in the region, Western Balkan countries, discussed about human rights, gender equality, and the possibility of how to become more European countries, not just geographically, but also with our standards, human rights standards, and all other factors that really want to really become a European country. At that time, the main result was that we do have good legislation in place, but we suffer from implementation. And all our suggestions and recommendations were how our countries would increase the standards, would fulfill the criteria in order to become really a member of European. Now we are almost 15 years after that, and thinking about the criteria that we have to fulfill, we see that we have done progress, but we still need a lot of work more to bring the standards that the European countryside. I don't want to repeat my friend about the priorities that we have as a country, as Albania has as a country, but I have to emphasize one of them, ensuring the protection of human rights, including property rights. And we have to accept that Albania is party to all human rights treaties and have made significant progress, but in human rights, in gender equality, and strengthening all the institutions, but we see that we have a lot of challenges on especially addressing gender inequality, domestic violence, human trafficking, child labor, and exploitation, which are really challenging that we have to face. As a country, we have been in a group of countries that should have advanced more in EU membership, but we have to accept that most of the time we have not been successful due to political conflict. And this process has learned us some lessons, and what we have improved recently is really trying to have a consent that EU integration is a priority for all political forces and has big support from the population. In fact, the EU integration process is often seen as a political process where performance and progress are work-related or the will of the parties. I see it as a more complex process where all the actors should play an important role and should be involved throughout the process. And I see the young people, youth, students, and young generation as the people that should be key, not only for the fact that they have a great potential, but also for the fact that their wishes, their dreams and aspirations of today will improve the European Albanian of tomorrow. And I mean it, because probably from my background of teaching at the university, I do believe in potentials of students, young people, their dreams about the best or the better Albania of tomorrow, but also the will to contribute. We as policymakers should be more inclusive in order to really welcome their potentials and use efficiently what they bring to this process. This project that you are implementing, I think it's one of the good models how to raise awareness about EU process and EU integration, and I'm really eager to hear the survey, the results of the surveys that you have made, and believe that the capacity building of young people about EU integration process, the results, the means how to improve it, and how to contribute in it, it's key for involvement of young people. I have to say, and probably my colleague really mentioned, the Berlin process, the RICO, all the regional initiatives that have had in focus young people, young generation, have really brought a positive impact, especially in regional cooperation, young people being together and fostering a culture of peace, negotiation, tolerance, and pro-EU integration in all our young people in Western Balkans. Further, I would emphasize the Erasmus Plus, which is among the successful and most effective program that targets youth, education, training, and sports. Albania has shown positive progress compared to previous years. For example, during the last call from 32 projects approved from the Western Balkans, has granted 14 projects to Albanian organizations under the Erasmus Youth in Action program. I have to say that these are positive models that we should continue and should benefit especially from EU countries, the ones that have been traditionally since the beginning, but also from countries that have joined EU later, like Bulgaria, Romania, Croatia, countries that have gone through similar or through the same path that we are going to continue, and we have a lot to learn from them. how I see the process, I have to say that the process is challenging for all actors of Albania, but I do see that as the ultimate goal to engage people and youth to be responsible, active citizens and participate in civil society and democratic life through education, training, sport, and by doing that, contributing to the creation of a stronger and more democratic Europe. Involvement of youth and civil society in EU integration process of Albania, to my opinion, remains a precondition for efficient, inclusive, and sustainable democratic transition of Albania from the phase where it is towards becoming an EU member. Thank you so much. I try to be short because of respecting the time and also listening to all actors. Thank you again for having me. I'm really eager to listen to your presentation about the survey and wish you good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Germani, for staying on time, but also for echoing some of the key important messages of both projects that we are presenting today, the one on Young Towards Europe about raising awareness on EU integration, and also the one on debating about EU integration process and its impact at the university level in Albania. I would like now to invite Mr. Valentin Lambev, member of the Bulgarian Parliament, to share his perspectives and his experience as well. Mr. Lambev, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for the invitation to join you online. So I was listening carefully to the people that were discussed before me about your way to EU joining. So what I can say that first of all, you have to have a political consensus nationwide, because this will be a lengthy process, and the efforts of everybody involved in this process, institution, people by itself, has to be persistent and continuous, as it seems Europe has their own problems now. And in this situation, your integration will be a difficult process because there's so many obstacles, political, economical, social, and of course, skepticism on EU level. But I'm pretty sure that Albania has to join EU, and this is the path of Albania toward EU, will be successful in time. And of course, this process wouldn't be smooth and wouldn't be so easy, because it seems that in this process, you have to have also to fulfill all the obligations that you have to implement into your laws and also into your systems. But also what is important, in my opinion, is to protect your national interests going into EU. It is very essential myself, I think so, because it seems that you have to have your national identity into EU and you have to protect your interest as well. So that's for me for now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lambel. It is true that in Albania there is a wide support for the European Union and the European integration process, but through these projects as well, we are trying to educate and prepare, as was mentioned also before by the other speakers, the citizens and diverse actors on the impact, and not everything will be positive necessarily. So I appreciate you highlighting the issue of a national interest and as well as a national identity. Thank you for that. And I would like now to give the floor to Mrs. Evis Kushi. She is also a member of the Albanian Parliament. Mrs. Kushi, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. And thank you very much for the invitation and this opportunity to discuss together on the challenges of the European integration perspective of Albania and all the region. This is in fact one of the main topics of discussion for all of us, mainly politicians, of course. The integration process, the opening of negotiations, the conditions set by the EU, terms, etc., etc. But I think that much more important than this process itself and more important than numbers in the calendar is the Europeanization of the country. The most important thing is the improvement of standards and our way of living. While integration is considered as a mechanical process aimed at adapting to laws, rules, and institutions, Europeanization should be about how politics, institutions, and especially the society as a whole absorb this as a common product. Unfortunately, in many years, we have proved that we know how to make good laws, even good rules. But when it comes to implement and respect them, here the problems are bigger. It has often happened that we have adopted the best laws from you or other countries in the region. We have adopted them with the assistance of the best experts, Albania or European experts. But at the end of the day, the impact in practice, the impact in the everyday life has not met the expectations. We all know very well what the challenges of the integration process are, because both the government and institutions work every day on it. And I don't want to repeat what my colleagues previously very well explained here. But what are the challenges of Albania's Europeanization? Very little and rarely is discussed about it. Today, after, let's say, 30 years after the collapse of communism system, the majority of Albanian people continue to be convinced that the future of Albania is the European family. The only way to develop the country and to guarantee the future is to fully be integrated into the European family. But as I said before, the problem is not simply the duration of this process, whether the membership will happen after 5 or 10 years. In fact, the Albanians themselves are aware that the road to full membership of the country in the European Union will be long. And it will, of course, require lots of major and profound changes in the country, especially in terms of how the rule of law and institutions work. But what is also very, very important to discuss is in terms of the standards and the way of living, as I said before, the standards that society must meet and implement, which is really what we call Europeanization of the country. Europeanization is the best opportunity for all of us, and not simply to raise a flag in Brussels, but to be really European in principles and standards by which we build the basic institutions and society. Justice, equality, and freedom. These are 3 of these fundamental values on which European democracies are based, and what we have to embrace and implement everywhere and every day. And this is not a responsibility only for the government, but for all of us, for all the society. Thank you very much. And I wish to all of you a very successful conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Kushi. I really appreciate it. It is like a breath of fresh air to hear from politicians, members of parliament, and decision makers, not only about achievements, but also about challenges. So thank you for your input. And I would like now to move to our next speakers, and then we can have a session of questions and answers at the end. Now we have the panel where our colleagues will talk a little bit more about these 2 projects that brought us here together today. And then we will have the opinion and the ideas from two of our best students, let's say. We'll start with Professor Nevila Jindi, General Director for Institutional Cooperation and Project Development at the Mesdeo Center at the Mediterranean University of Albania. She will talk a little bit about the role of education in promoting European values in Albania, and it is right in the same lines as the other speakers were talking about. Mrs. Nevila, the floor is yours. Thank you. Could you please unmute the microphone? Nevila, once more, please. Okay. I think now we're good. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloriana. Thank you for from everyone that is participating in this webinar. And as Breton mentioned before, and Gloriana, that's the only possibility we have to conclude our project. It has been a long project, like 2 years almost, and it's ending now in June. I'm very proud that we are up here and we involved a lot of students, a lot of young people during our trainings, during our debates in many, many cities. And here it comes to the end. I mean, sometimes it's pity that it's ending, but it's nice to see that many people joined us in this webinar. And now shortly I'll talk about our survey, but just a little bit of introduction. A civilized society cannot function unless it's supported by 3 equally important pillars: democracy, economic stability and welfare, and education. And as you know, education is one of the keystones to ensure the sustainable and peaceful development in our society. The civic dimension of education has now become a priority within the European Commission work plan, and many initiatives are now being taken by the EU institution. And that's in that environment, that's how our project was supported from IPA funding. Human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law, the respect for human rights, including rights for persons belonging to minorities, are values which are shared by the European member state. They form the fabrics of the Union that binds countries, that will bind Albania to, communities and people together. While the government of Albania is engaged in EU-related reforms, there is a lack of comprehensive information in public debate and dialogue about the EU integration and accession process and the related reform. Inclusive and high-quality education and training was the purpose of the survey that we handled during the last period. Was the pandemic, actually. That's why the survey was done online. The study is based on a survey on European dimension in education. With high school students aging 16 to 18 years old in high schools in Tirana. I'll shortly go on some of the indication of the survey. I mean, we can share the survey for sure. The main information resource that youth in Albania have regarding the European Union is the TV. And they do not encounter it in discussion with friends or family. European Parliament seems to be more known from them towards other institutions. Youth in Albania has clear and general information regarding the creation of the EU, some of the institutions, but 90% of the responders declared that European Union is a group of states, and they were coming together for peacekeeping and stability. Brussels is known even from the Albanian as the EU capital, because we asked the question, who's the capital? Sure, they have a confusion after Brexit. Is the number of the countries that changed, 28 or 27, but still free movement was one of the elements that was pointed in the main benefit for the youth. They believe that being part of the EU, it's very important for their education, and it's not unexpected that they see it as a place to migrate. Most of the youth believe that Albania will be a member of the EU in 2025. 26 of them said in 2030, and only 6 of them, they said never. Still, half of the responders were very skeptical about the membership and the way we are going towards it. But all they are mentioning is the massive immigration toward the EU countries. This project was important, and I just shared, because I don't want to spend everybody's time, but lack of awareness of the origin of the union, the reason of its creation, its basic functioning, created misinformation. And for sure, it prevents the formation of informed opinions and actions. Education in all its type and all its levels, from an early age players, promotes values. That's why we're coming up with some recommendation, like to strengthen the sense of European identity in young generation, to clarify the value of civilization and European citizens in 2 dimensions, political, being as a citizen, and psychology, feeling like a citizen, to improve knowledge, the image of Europe, to offer opportunity to improve quality in education, and to insert into our education system more knowledge about shared principles and values, individual liberties and democracy. At the end, I would say that schools must become the epicenter of diversity and Europeanization. Adolescence, as the period when a person's identity is defined, is essential in the development of these values. Furthermore, the values of young people can also reflect the direction of the change of a culture in our society. Doriana, thank you very much. I really want to stop here to leave the floor for our speakers.
Thank you so much, Nevila. I appreciate you sharing with us the findings, but also the recommendations, and I believe that they are echoing what other speakers as well mentioned before. The importance that we need to be prepared as a society for this process, but also to educate, to inform as much as we can the younger generation, who are supposed, of course, to they are the potential for the future development of the country. In the same line, but building on what Nevila said, I would like to invite our colleague, Dr. Dorina Gjipali. She will talk about the other project financed by the Open Society Foundation for Albania, Laboratory of Debate on European Integration in University Auditoriums. Dr. Gjipali, coming from Luarasi University, was one of the mentors of our students in this project, and she will talk a little bit more about the role of youth coming from the experience of this concrete project. Thank you, Dorina, the floor is yours.
Përshëndetje të gjithëve. Është kënaqësi veçantë për mua të jem pjesë e këtij webinari. Unë do të flas për rolin.
One second. In this case, Dorina will be presenting in Albanian, and then we will have our collaborator, Mrs. Juliana Sokoli. She will then translate for everybody else. Sorry about that. Thank you. Sorry, Dorina. Thank you.
Unë do të flas për rolin e rinisë. Faktikisht për rolin e rinisë në Shqipëri është shkruar dhe diskutuar shumë, janë bërë studime, janë bërë strategji, plani veprimi, por sërish ndikimi dhe roli që rinia ka në proceset më të rëndësishme që kalon vendi ynë betet i ulët. Të rinjtë në Shqipëri kanë pak ose as pak hapësira ku të shprehin opinionet dhe idetë e tyre për tema me interes publik. Sondazhet e studimet e shumta tregojnë se të rinjtë shqiptar kanë humbur besimin në institucionet e vendit, ndihen të përdorur vetëm për sfond politik, pa patur mundësi të marrin pjesë në proceset vendimarrëse dhe të jenë fokusi këtyre proceseve.
Much has been written and discussed about the role of youth in Albania, and studies and strategies, action plans have been made. But again, the impact and the role that youth have in the most important processes that our country is going through remains low. Young people in Albania have little or no space to express their opinions and ideas on topics of public interest. Various surveys and studies show that Albanian youth have lost faith in the country's institutions, feel used, only for political background without having the opportunity to participate in decision-making processes and be the focus of these processes.
Sipas studimit të bërë nga Partners Albania, kuadri institucional dhe ligjor nuk e fuqizon pjesëmarrjen e të rinjve në sferën sociale në Shqipëri. Ekziston një kulturë dominuese midis institucioneve publike që të rinjt nuk do të jenë aktorët kryesorë në krijimin të ardhmës së këtij vendi. Çka bie në kontrastë edhe me demografinë e popullsisë në Shqipëri, një nga më të rejat në Europë. Por, fatkeqësisht, Shqipëria mban me një nga vendet e para për sa i përket papunësisë së të rinjve. Janë pikërisht këta faktorë dhe të tjerë që kanë shkaktuar një gjendje apatie tek të rinjt, deri në pikën që 4 prej 5 nga këta të rinj duan të largojnë nga Shqipëria.
According to a study conducted by Partners Albania, the institutional and legal framework does not strengthen the participation of young people in the social sphere in Albania. There is a dominant culture among public institutions that young people will not be the main actors in creating the future of this country, which is in contrast to the demographic distribution of the population in Albania, one of the youngest in Europe. But that, unfortunately, holds one of the first places in terms of youth unemployment. It is these factors and many others that have caused a state of apathy in Albanian youth to the point that 4 in 5 of them want to leave Albania.
Po, si ti kthejmë besimin në rinis, si ti vendosim ata në kushtet që meritojnë të jenë? Rinia është forca e ndryshimit, u tha dhe më përpara, është fuqia që ndryshon të ardhmen e një vendi. Ajo ka fuqinë t'i bëjë të gjithë bashkë, pavarësisht ndasive. Të rinjt janë liderat e së nesërmes, dhe ata duhet të kenë një rol thelbësor në proceset integruese të vendit. Por që ta bëjnë këtë, duhet që dikush t'i jap mundësinë që ata të shprehin opinionet dhe mendimet e tyre dhe të jenë aktiv në sferën publike. Pikërisht këtë bëri Qendra për Shkencë dhe Inovacion për Zhvillim. Ata me mbështetjen e Fondacionit Shoqëri të Hapur për Shqipëri, me projektin Debati për Integrimin Evropian në auditorët universitarë.
But how do we restore trust in youth? How do we put them in the conditions they deserve to be? Youth is the force of change. It has the power to change the future of a country, to bring everyone together regardless of divisions. Young people are the leaders of tomorrow and should play an essential role in the country's integration process. But in order to do that, we need to give them the opportunity to express themselves and defend their opinions, to be active in the public sphere. This is exactly what the Center Science and Innovation for Development did with the support of the Foundation for Open Society in Albania with project Debate on European Integration in University Auditoriums.
Sot të rinjt dhe studentët janë të ekspozuar ndaj lajmeve dhe opinioneve të shumta në kohë reale rreth proceseve të integrimit. Këto lajme shpeshherë përcjellen me opinione jo pozitive, prandaj debati u dha mundësinë studentëve të ngrënë pyetje, të thellohen në njohuritë e tyre dhe të sfidojnë opinionet e njerëzve që i rrethojnë për tema të rëndësishme që lidhen me procesin e integrimit. Më shumë se 100 studentë, në mentorimin e pedagogëve të tyre, debatuan me entuziazmin dhe idealizmin që vetëm të rinjt kanë. Ata argumentuan me fakte dhe evidenca në një debat të strukturuar e me rregulla për lëvizjen e lirë në Bashkimin Evropian, për ndikimin që integrimi evropian do të ketë në demokracinë dhe zhvillimin ekonomik të Shqipërisë, por diskutuan dhe mbi të ardhmen e Bashkimit Evropian.
Today, young people and students are exposed to a lot of real-time news and opinions about the integration process. This news is often accompanied by negative feedback, so the debate gave students the opportunity to ask questions, deepen their knowledge, and challenge the opinions of the people around them on important topics related to the integration process. More than 100 students, under the mentoring of their professors, debated with enthusiasm and idealism that only young people have. They argued with facts and evidence in a structured and rule-based debate about free movement in the European Union, the impact the European integration will have on Albania's democracy and economic development, but also discuss the future of the European Union.
Ata nëpërmjet argumentave promovuan vlerat europiane, dinjitetin njerëzor, lirinë, demokracinë, barazinë, sundimin e ligjit, respektimin e të drejtave të njeriut. Vlera këto që duhet i respektojë çdo shoqëri që aspiron të jetë pjesë e familjes europiane. Duke parë këta studentë se si u përkushtuan ndaj debatit dhe duke dëgjuar idetë e tyre, ne pedagogët, por besoj dhe ideatorët e projektit, mendoj se ndihemi optimist për të ardhmen. Ky projekt duhet të jetë vetëm një fillim i mbar dhe jo fundi një procesi. Të rinjt shqiptar duhet të jenë në qendër të debatit për integrimin e Shqipërisë në Bashkimin Evropian. Prandaj, shpresoj që puna të vazhdojë. Edhe pse debatet për shkak të situatës së krijuar nga COVID-19 u zhvilluan online në formën e webinarëve, studentët debatues dhanë një kontribut të rëndësishëm në rritjen e ndërgjegjësimit të kolegëve të tyre të opinionit publik për ndikimin dhe përfitimet që sjell antarësimi i Shqipërisë në Bashkimin Evropian.
They, through their arguments, promoted European values such as human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law, respect for human rights, which must be respected by any society that aspires to be part of the European family. Seeing these students, how they devoted themselves to the debate and listening to their ideas, we professors, but I also believe the creators of the project, we feel very optimistic about the future. This project should be a good start and not at the end of a process. Albanian youth must be at the center of the debate on Albania's EU integration, so I hope the work will go on. Although the debates, due to the situation created by COVID-19, took place online in the form of webinars, the debating students made an important contribution to raising the awareness of their colleagues and the public about the impact and benefits of Albania's membership in the EU.
Integrimi i Shqipërisë në familjen europiane është nga qëllimet më të rëndësishme për vendin tonë dhe roli të rinjve dhe organizatave rinore në këtë proces patjetër duhet jetë më i fortë. Projektet e ndryshme që synojnë përmirësimin e rolit të rinjve në procesin e antarësimit të Shqipërisë në Bashkimin Evropian janë gjithmonë inkurajuese, shpresdhënëse dhe për të përgëzuar, sidomos kur rezultatet e tyre janë të dukshme. Ne si shoqëri kemi detyrimin të investojmë tek rinia, të investojmë në dije, të rrisim njohuritë dhe aftësitë e të rinjve tanë ndaj fenomeneve shoqërore rreth Bashkimit Evropian. Të mundsojmë të rinjve tanë të jenë konkurrues dhe të përfitojnë sa më shumë nga financimet e Bashkimit Evropian. Integrimi i vendit tonë në Bashkimin Evropian nuk duhet parë thjesht një agjendë institucionale dhe politike, por si një projekt ambicioz zhvillimi i nxitur nga shoqëria e ku promotorët kryesor të jenë pikërisht të rinj.
Albania's integration into the European family is one of the most important goals for our country, and the role of youth and youth organizations in this process should be stronger. Various projects aimed at improving the role of youth in the accession process of Albania in the European Union are always encouraging, hopeful, especially when the results are visible. We as a society have an obligation to invest in youth, to invest in knowledge, to increase the knowledge and skills of our young people towards social phenomena and around the European Union in order to enable them to be competitive and to benefit as much as possible from the funding that the EU places at the disposal of the young people. The integration of our country into the European Union should not be seen simply as an institutional and political agenda, but as an ambitious development project promoted by society where the main promoters are the young people.
Të rinj nga ana e tyre duhet të përkushtohen intensivisht në edukim, në informim, në aktivizim publik për rigjenerimin socio-ekonomik të shoqërisë shqiptare. Janë ata që duhet ta çojnë në rrugën e prosperitetit dhe të progresit dhe të çlirojnë vendin nga paragjykime. Le të jetë ky projekt i Qendrës Shkencë dhe Inovacion për Zhvillim një iniciativë që do të ndiqet edhe nga projekte të tjera me fokus informimin dhe trajnimin e të rinjve, që nga studimet shihet si një nga problematikat më të rëndësishme për mos përfshirjen e të rinjve në sferën publike. Rëndësi të veçantë ka rjetëzimi dhe mirë organizimi i projekteve me fokus angazhimi dhe përfshirjen publike, si dhe në proceset vendimarrëse dhe politik bërëse të rinjve. Duhen forcuar dhe mbështetur në kapacitetet të rinj të shoqërisë civile. Është momenti që institucionet shtetërore të shikojnë me prioritet hartimin e një strategjie, plani veprimi a politike të re pak rëndësi ka emri, për mbështetjen dhe fuqizimin e të rinjve në Shqipëri duke alokuar fondet e duhura.
Young people, for their part, must be intensively committed to education, information, public activism, and the socio-economic regeneration of Albanian society. They are the ones who must lead Albania on the path of progress and prosperity, free the country from prejudice. Let this project of the Center Science for Innovation and Development be an initiative that will be followed by other projects with a focus on informing and training young people since early in their early studies to be seen as one of the most important issues of the non-inclusion of young people in the public sphere. Of particular importance is the networking and well-organized organization of projects with a focus on public engagement and involvement, as well as in the decision-making and policy-making processes of young people. Young people in civil society need to be empowered and supported. It is time for state institutions to prioritize the drafting of a new strategy, action plan, or policy, it doesn't matter what the name is, for the support and empowerment of young people in Albania by allocating the necessary funds. This is also in the context of the completion of the timeframe of the National Youth Action Plan 2015-2020. Parliament and its agenda should prioritize education, employment, and youth issues.
Roli dhe pjesëmarrja e të rinjve është e një rëndësie primare për demokracinë e Shqipërisë dhe antarësimin e saj në Bashkimin Evropian. Për ta përmbyllur, do doja të citoja presidentin Roosevelt. Ne nuk mund të ndërtojmë të ardhmen për të rinjtë tanë, por mund të ndërtojmë të rinjtë tanë për të ardhmen. Faleminderit.
The role and participation of young people is of primary importance for the democracy of Albania and its membership in the European Union. To conclude, I would like to quote President Roosevelt, who said, "We cannot build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future." Thank you.
Thank you, Dorina, very much for highlighting the achievements of the project, but also underlying some other important issues such as funding, networking, and the EU program. Thank you, Juliana, for your excellent translation. I would like now to give the floor to our colleague, Mrs. Luciana Lula, and she will talk more concretely about the possibilities that the European Union offers to young people in Albania and the region and more broadly. Luciana, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Bleriana. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you again, SciDev, and also the Mediterranean University for the invitation. I must say that I have been involved in both projects, and this virtual conference, due to the situation, is the example that we should give to the civil society, but even further to all actors that work in EU integration, because we have so many initiatives and fragmentized projects, so creating synergy is very difficult. So congratulations again on this idea. I agree with all that has been said so far, that EU integration is a very important priority for our country. I think also, I believe it must be politically in terms of commitment, the only game in town as well. But on the other hand, we must think of our youth and why is youth so important in the process. And I don't only refer here to civil society and youth activists who of course know how to raise their voice and how to make themselves heard from political actors, but also to the general and other categories of youth. And the main immediate issue that we have in terms of youth is unfortunately youth unemployment, which still remains high. So I believe that a way to solve this issue is to improve education opportunities, training and vocational education. And this is where the European Union offers its major help as well. One of the and the biggest program that the European Union has is the Erasmus Plus funding scheme, which is a wide public policy of the Union in terms of education, sports, training and vocational education as well. And it focuses also on the principles of lifelong learning. In Albania, I also represent the Erasmus Student Network, which is a network of student and alumni of Erasmus+. And what we mainly do is provide information on remote youth, especially on how to access this funding, which sometimes they almost never heard of. And during the tours we did with Young Toward Europe, I believe we have given a contribution to society, and that is an initiative which should be spread further. On the other hand, I do believe that this kind of projects, such as Debating Europe at university level, give as well a contribution in terms of practical benefiting and absorbing funds. For example, if we would see figures from previous years, Albania would have among the lowest rates of fund absorption of the programs that the European Union has for civil society, education and youth. But I think that due to many initiatives that have been taken by several organizations, we have managed to contribute to an increased number of Albanian youth profiting and benefiting from the available funds that European Union has. For example, based on the latest report issued by the Commission on the Erasmus Mundus master degree scholarships, before Albania would have 4th or 5th place in the region. Now we are ranked second after Serbia with 64 64% of scholarships benefited by Albanian students, which I believe it's a great achievement for all actors that work in the field of education and youth. Besides this, besides the university youth, Albanian youngsters can also profit from European Solidarity Corps, which is the previous European Voluntarity Service, but renamed now. It's a great opportunity to have a short-term working experience abroad with all costs covered, and that is very important, especially to young people who are just starting their career, but also funding is one of the issues. And the other option that I would, and it's mainly an initiative of the Commission, and I think it's being emphasized by this COVID situation, is virtual mobilities. I think the best is to make use of these online exchanges that are taking place currently, not only because it's impossible to travel, but also because it gives you an opportunity to don't feel disconnected from the world, and it gives an opportunity to also youngsters with disabilities, physicals or any sort of disability that might impede them from going to a mobility. So I think the European Union overall has a lot of public policies, inclusive policies towards young people from the Western Balkans that we as civil society organizations should promote and embrace as well. And to conclude, I would like to give a short figure. So in 2019, the student and staff mobility flow from Western Balkans to Europe has been 23,300 students and staff have been for a short period of training or work or studies in the EU. And on the other hand, almost 14,000 European citizens have visited Western Balkans for short-term studies, trainings, or professional placements, which is an important figure to the reciprocity principle of European integration. It should not only refer to Western Balkan citizens benefiting from these programs, but also to the Western Balkans as a region contributing to the process by bringing in, making themselves visible, culturally breaking stereotypes and creating this Europeanization at both reciprocal level, I think. And in all this, of course, youth have the main role to break stereotypes and help the country have a better image also abroad due to these exchanges, and especially being active citizens of what would be future European Union with hopefully Western Balkans on board. Thank you and congratulations again.
Thank you, Luciana. I would like now to give the floor to two of our best students from the SciDev University debate on EU integration. We will start with Elio Osmani, a student from the Faculty of Social Sciences from the University of Tirana. And then we will move on to Ray Hodo, a student from the European University of Tirana. I would just like to stress that because of time issues, we didn't have the opportunity to invite all 26 leaders of the 13 debate teams of the project, but we have had to work with them in the past 9 months and to appreciate their enthusiasm and their idealism as well. So Elio, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Elio Osmani. I'm a student of political science in University of Tirana, but today I don't want to represent myself as a student, but as somebody that want to see Albania get better day by day. For me, it's such a pleasure to be part of this meeting and to take my word according to the debate or the youth power. The topic is an interesting topic that we used to talk everywhere. We used to talk in class, in coffees, about the Albania in Europe. Albania in Europe is a big deal. Is our big deal. Is our dream. We have almost 30 years that we're chasing our dream, but and as we look, we're in a good way. But our main problem is the students, because students are preferring to study abroad, and it's not the best choice, because they think that they can solve their problems in Europe, and they forget that their future is here. If we want to be part of Europe, we have to act like Europeans. We have to treat our land like is our home. We have to fight for it. We have to not to fight maybe in war, but to fight mentally, to invest our energies for our land and for ourselves. Because if I know that Albania has some problems, corruption, political policies, etc., etc. But there's no reason to go back. There's no reason to go down. If you see somebody doing something bad, there's no reason to go down. According to the debate, debate was a great experience for us. I would say that it was a space where we can express our feelings, our thoughts, and I'm very grateful that I was part of it. I'm ready to be part of another experience like that, because it was great. Integration of Albania in Europe is such a big cause, but so I can't tell everything. I can say everything that we discussed there, but I would say that a lot of students have optimist thoughts about it. I'm an optimist person too, and I hope that we will be part of Europe soon. That is my word. I don't want to last long, so thank you.
Thank you, Elio, very much. Of course, we do not want to suppress the ambitions of young people to study and work abroad, but at the same time, we believe that we can also, each of us, make our own contribution to create better future prospects for our young generations in our own country as well. And now I would like to welcome Ray Hodo from the European University of Tirana, also one of the debating students in the IDEF project. Ray, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Leriana, përshëndetje të gjithëve. Së pari, unë jam student i Universitetit Evropian të Tiranës, drejtimi marrëdhënie ndërkombëtare, viti I parë niveli master shkencor.
Hello everybody, my name is Ray Hodo and I'm a student of the European University of Tirana, currently studying Masters International Relations.
Së pari, mora pjesë në këtë debat sepse më pëlqen të diskutoj, por pse jo edhe të debatoj. Nga ana tjetër, është e pranueshme që jo të gjithë debatuesit të bien dakord me mua, sepse në fundit nuk është kjo detyra e tyre, pra dakordësia në një farë mënyre me kundërshtarin.
I participated in these debates because I like to share my opinions, to communicate, but also to debate. And the beauty of these debates is that not everybody had to agree with my opinion, but we had to share our thoughts.
Këtë debat apo realitetin në të cilin u zhvillua ky debat do të kisha dëshirë ta përkufizoja si një eksperiencë apo si një mundësi që rrallë herë ndodh të jetë pranë nesh. Kushtet apo realiteti thënë ndryshe apo shumë çka tjetër nuk do të jenë të tilla në një moment të dytë dhe rrjedhimisht shumë gjëra do detyrohen të kthehen normalitetit.
I'd like to emphasize the fact that I would consider this debate as a very valuable experience for me, because maybe in the future I will not have such an opportunity to participate in a program like this.
Aspekti apo pjesa më pozitive në optikën time që ofron ky format I debatit apo mënyra se si ne formatuam është fakti dhe papranueshmëria që ky debat I bën intolerancës ndërmjet debatuesve. gjëja më e mirë që ky debat, dhe unë doja ta përkufizoja duke sjellë në kujtesën apo në vëmendjen tuaj një moment nga një figurë politike si Jacques Chirac, i cili nuk zgjidhte të debatonte dhe largohej nga debati në momentin që vjen re mungesa e që ky debat, dhe unë doja ta përkufizoja.
Rej, të lutem, më ngadalë sepse po krijon shumë interferencë.
Politike si Jacques Chirac, i cili nuk zgjidhte të debatonte dhe largohej nga debati në momentin që vjen re.
Rej, të lutem, më ngadalë sepse po krijon shumë interferencë.
Already. Sorry about that. It was actually the host of the Zoom that was creating the interference and not Ray, because he was already muted. But Ray, if you could speak slowly, in this way we can help Juliana with the translation. Thank you. Juliana, are you still there?
Yeah, it's fine. So the most interesting fact about this debate is the tolerance that we showed and we experienced throughout the debate, especially compared with the political environment where we could see that politicians were actually avoiding debate because they didn't want to share their opinions. So for us, this was something really positive to experience.
E kërkoj ndjes për situatën, por ishte diçka që nuk ishte në dorën time.
I apologize for the situation, but it was not okay.
Dhe për t'ju rikthyer përsëri fjalës aty ku e lash, aspektin më pozitiv po thoja të këtij debati.
So the most positive aspect of these debates.
Do doja ta përkufizoja me një moment nga një figurë e lartë politike si Jacques Chirac.
I would like to actually mention here a quote from Jacques Chirac.
I cili në momentin që debati shoqëroi me mungesë tolerance, zgjidhte të mos merrte pjesë në debat.
And who actually chose that in time where the debate was accompanied with intolerance, he decided, he did not want to participate in such debate.
Rrjedhimisht, ky format lejon mendimin e gjithkujt.
Because I think that this format of these debates, it allows the expression of opinion of everyone.
Së dyti, sa I takon rolit të rinjve në procesin e integrimit evropian, nuk do dëshiroj të zgjatem shumë.
And as far as the role of the youth in the integration process, I don't want to speak a lot about this topic.
Kjo pasi jo vetëm parafolsja, por edhe debatet dhe analizat për këtë temë janë të shumta.
Because everybody here spoke about this, and also the studies that have been conducted so far are a lot of number.
Dhe së fundi ajo mbi të cilin unë do dëshiroja të vendos theksin.
And what I would like to emphasize in the end is that
është as më pak dhe as më shumë brumosja tek brezat e rinj të atyre principeve themelore europiane. Principeve themelore europiane të cilat do të kenë mundësinë të sigurojnë pikërisht tek këto breza të ardhmen më të mirë, të ardhmen europiane.
And I think that these kind of programs will actually seed in the youth those kind of principles that are so much needed for the future of Albania and the future of the youth.
Zgjedh ta mbyll këtu për të qëndruar konciz kohës dhe për të mos u zgjatur akoma më shumë. Faleminderit.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you very much, as well as to Elio. I know that we are supposed to finish right now, but I suppose that we can stay a little bit longer, at least 10 minutes. I would invite anyone who would like to share a comment or a thought or has a question for our speakers to raise their hands or write in the chat, and then I could give you the floor. But please limit your input to only 1 minute maximum. If anyone would like to talk, just raise your hand in the old-fashioned way or raise your hand in the Zoom or write in the chat if you have any question or any comments. Okay, we'll do this as an, okay. Yes, Besmira, please unmute yourself and you have 1 minute. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Besmira Lahim. I am a lecturer in the University of New York in Tirana, and I'm very happy to be part of this online conference. Thanking everyone from the University of Mediterranean University de Mesdatar, Cyprus, and from the debate organization. I'd like to say that this was another step forward in providing education online throughout our online platforms. And this is another very good initiative for further transforming and giving voice to the power that education has in order to empower the future generation with the resources that they have, and to provide a better future for everyone. I've been part of the lecturers engaged in the university debates, and my experience, and from my students' experience, it was a wonderful opportunity to share their voices. And I strongly support the idea that we should listen more to our students' voices in order to empower them and to tell them that your voice is what really counts, so that when they are becoming our decision makers, when they are going to do the public policies for the countries, they are going to be very responsible of their actions because of understanding what a bright way of thinking about the future they used to present when they were students, and what kind of voice they are promoting even now that they are decision makers.
Thank you, Besmira. Thank you very much for your input. If anyone else would like to share something, as I said, very briefly, please. I know that most probably all of you are very tired after 2 hours. Okay, I had the duty and the privilege to do the conclusion and the final remarks. It actually turns out to be much more difficult because so many good ideas and suggestions were presented, and so challenges, experience, and thoughts were shared here today. And I don't think that we have the time for me to repeat all of them, but we will, of course, make available the entire video of this online conference, and also an overview, a written overview of the conclusions or the ideas that we shared with each other here today. I would just like to thank all our distinguished speakers for participating and for sharing their ideas with us today, and our students, of course, our colleagues and our friends. And I believe that I speak for everyone when I say that even though it seems long, these 2 hours were in fact very well spent, because we discussed about an important topic such as the role of youth in European integration, but as well different perspectives of this complex and crucial process for Albania, but also for the region. I would consider this as a starting point of a platform, being it virtual or not, of bringing together academics and students on one side, with politicians, members of parliaments, decision makers, policy makers on the other, and having research centers, think tanks, and NGOs as mediators, as facilitating this dialogue and this collaboration. And as it was mentioned by almost all speakers, the European integration process will affect and currently affects the entire society and all actors in society. So it is very important to have this dialogue and this collaboration by using EU terminology. In this case, I would say to collaborate within the quadruple helix by bringing together academics, university on one side, civil society, media, policymakers, and why not also the private sector. And in this way, we can have an inclusive, participatory, but also sustainable process. The 5, I would say, takeaways from the message today are, of course, the importance of sharing experience, not only at the governmental level, but also at other levels. For example, between academics, between students, between civil society organization, and so forth. Today, we learned a little bit more about the Bulgarian experience in terms of youth policy, and we hope that in the future, we will also have the opportunity to organize similar events and bring together similar actors to discuss and to share experience from other countries that have gone through this process before Albania. Of course, this is related to the issue of regional cooperation that was mentioned also by our distinguished speakers today. The EU and other actors, such as the Regional Cooperation Council, are working on this regard. I believe that other initiatives as well are very important. Mrs. Messi mentioned RICO, for example. All the others mentioned Erasmus+, but also the Western Balkan Fund, the European Fund for the Balkans, and other smaller initiatives are actually contributed to this social cohesion and good neighborhood relationships by bringing together young people, students, academics, researchers, activists, and civil society organizations. The third, of course, is education, education, education. We live in times of multiple crises, I would say. In Albania in November, we had the earthquake, and then, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic, with the widespread of technologies, internet, online media. So many uncertainties actually surround us. And in this regard, I believe that education is a beacon of light, and it is time to reconsider it actually as a purpose of enlightenment, of emancipation, and of empowerment. These 2 projects that were presented today have managed in the past months to work with youth and to educate them regarding the European integration process and impact. The findings, however, as presented by Mrs. Gindi, show that there is still important gaps in the knowledge that young people have in this regard. And it is not only about young people. I believe that in the future, it is important to work with other categories as well, to educate and to empower also marginalized communities and other less advantaged groups in this regard. Of course, finally, the key word that brings us all together here today is youth. When the lockdown started, we as SciDev and also our partners at the Mesdeus Center had to readjust their activities of the project in line of the new reality. We were skeptical about the reaction of the students, but the silver lining now, after 4 months, is that students were very much interested and they participated enthusiastically in this process. So they were eager to have more activities and projects like this. This is a positive sign, I would say, for all actors in the academia, but also in the public sector, in civil society, and also from the donor community to continue their work with youth and to empower them to become active citizens and to build a better future in their own country. And finally, of course, a big challenge remains funding. It was mentioned here as well by our speakers, especially if we think of the important role that youth has in social development, overcoming demographic changes, but also in terms of employment, the overall social cohesion and democracy of the country. So finally, thank you once more for bearing with us. I hope we will have other opportunities to meet together either online or face-to-face. And I hope that each of us, being in the parliament in Bulgaria or in Albania or in the government or in the universities, in the civil society, we will continue to do our role well and in this way contribute to the overall development of Albania. Thank you so much from my heart for being here today, and all the best in your future endeavors. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.